This is Charlie.
This is Max.
And this is Benji.
And this is... What's our podcast name again? Oh, yeah. Tea Time with the Fellowship.
My boy.
Anyway, we got a great series of questions for you. One even submitted, sorry, I know words, from one of our viewers. So that'll be fun to hear. So to start off on this wonderful Sunday, not really morning, but I'll pretend it's the morning.
It's the morning.
2 p.m. is the morning here in our house.
Sure is.
So, the first question.
Whoa. Before we get into the questions, I've got to update the viewers on... So, is this green? Well, I have to taste it first.
Oh, yeah, I gotta taste it too, man. Tea of the day time.
No, this is definitely green tea, right?
Let me get a taste. Let me get a whiff.
That's not a whiff, you tasted it.
It's a mouth whiff. Yes, that is green tea.
You gotta aerate it.
Once again, though, it's not very... It doesn't appear very green.
That is because you have it in a blue cup.
Very blue.
My statement remains.
That's because you have it in a blue cup, so it looks like blue tea.
I don't think we have any green mugs.
Is blue tea just like dish soap inside a cup?
Yeah, it's like a Dawn dish soap. You just put in a cup, swirl it around a bit, take a swig, and you're like, cleaning my organs.
It's a little soapy, but cleaning my organs.
Okay. So, Benji, after this statement about the type of tea we're drinking, what is the tea of the day?
It's green tea.
And the brand?
Oh, you want me to... I'm not advanced enough to tell the brand for the taste. Let's go with Stash.
Oh, you got it right again. Ding, ding, ding.
Who would believe it? It's the same as the last 3 times.
Wow. We might change it up next week. We'll see.
I don't believe you.
So, first one, we're going a bit fishy. Not the smell, but literal fish.
Okay.
So, you guys remember SpongeBob, right? You guys remember the one where there's all those fishing hooks and Patrick keeps getting on the fishing hooks for an adventure? In the spirit of this Patrick energy, what would need to be on a fish hook for you to go and bite it?
Okay, is this in a realm where we are aware that there are fish hooks that might be baited?
There's like a 50% chance.
Okay, is it like suspicious at all?
It's a 50% chance.
50% chance.
Are we fish, or is this just interdimensional fish hooks in our life?
Interdimensional
like, you go to the
fish.
donut box, and if you pick up a certain donut, you get whisked away.
You just get like pulled into a tear in space.
So essentially, this alternate reality, right? The fish have taken over. This is far in the future.
Okay.
The fish have taken over, and their pastime is interdimensionally fishing for humans.
Human fishing.
In this world, you could just go around, you could find like a hook on your donut, hook on your pencil, hook on your laptop, hook on anything, and if you grab it, there's a possibility that the fish could reel you in.
Okay.
Take you through the interdimensional gateway, and you do not know what's on the other side.
Alright, so what needs to be on the hook?
What the question is, what has to be on the hook for us to be willing to...
Take the chance.
That might be a fish hook.
If there's a fish hook on it...
So we can see there's a hook on it.
Yeah, you see there's a hook on it.
Yeah, nothing. I don't think anything on there.
There's a 50% chance that you get sucked into the interdimensional gateway.
I'm not taking the chance.
Okay, that's be one item. Come on.
There is no one item.
It could be like a superpower. It could be anything.
Anything, okay. The ability to destroy fish hooks.
Okay, so you're gonna get this fish hook. The moment you grab on, you get the power to destroy fish hooks, and as you feel the sink into your flesh as it's trying to pull you through this interdimensional gateway, you like close your eyes and go, grrr, and then the fish hook just shatters.
Exactly.
This suddenly became like Dungeons and Dragons type like roleplay. I'd have to go. I think my desk chair, because
you already have it. What? You want another one?
No, if they hooked my own desk chair, and they tried to take it away from me, I don't think I could settle. What else? Would I use like a dining room chair? I wouldn't be willing to do that. I'd just rather risk it.
Use the lazy boy.
I don't know, man. I feel like there's 100%
The
fish are
Goodwill
gonna take
Lazy
the
Boy,
chair.
it still smells a little bit like cigarettes. Just a little.
That was the Salvation Army, right?
Yeah, Salvation Army store.
And then we got Krispy Kreme.
We did, yes. We've not had Krispy Kreme in a long minute.
It's been over a year. At least for me.
Same here.
How about you, Benji?
I think so.
Oh.
I-
For you, that's surprising. That's shocking.
Well, we live in trying times.
Where Krispy Kremes don't just appear and fall down on your lap for you to buy the delicious, nutritious, circly donut devices. Devices.
Okay, yeah.
Food is a
All right.
device.
What about you, Charlie? What would have to be on the fish hook?
That's a good question.
It's your question.
I don't actually think about the answers beforehand. I try not to. You know.
What about your slippers?
You know.
I feel like in the morning you wouldn't care, and then you just put them on.
Okay, I need to know I'm going to assume I know there's a fish hook.
Yeah.
So for this scenario, you know, a panzer would be pretty sick.
A panzer.
Like, if I found this panzer, right, and there's just dangling from this hook, like this fishing hook size thing, and a string just like a solid 6 inches from the ground.
So you're
I'll take
saying
the chance.
there was just a Tiger 1 tank, keys figuratively in the ignition, just there, and there was a little fish hook on it, you'd still acquire it.
Yeah, I mean, like, what? Okay, the moment I get in the tank, it's not like the hook's going to sink into me. They're going to pull me up with the tank. I'm like, I'm going to tank the moment they get me into their interdimensional world.
Yeah, but they are like, they rule over us and also have control over space.
Dude, but I'm in a tank.
But yeah, 1940 something, early 1940s tank technology versus interdimensional fish.
What are they going to do? I'm in a
It's
tank.
a 50-50 matchup, I'd say.
Now, in honor of Lego, I don't know why, just because Lego in general.
Lego in general, okay.
We're going to be talking about Legos. So, if you could turn any piece of media into a Lego game, like think Lego Star Wars, Lego Indiana
Okay.
Jones, Lego Harry Potter, it doesn't need to be live action, it could be any piece of media. What would it be, and where would the HQ be?
HQ.
So, like, you know in Lego Star Wars, how you have the cantina where most of your
yeah,
missions
yeah,
are
yeah.
handled. So, where would you go to your missions from in this
Okay.
Lego game?
Off the top of my head, the first thing that came to mind was Lego Naruto, because that would be a long-ass game, right? That'd be... You'd pay $60 and you'd get 800 hours out of that game.
Just to
Easy.
beat it.
Easy, because it's Naruto. And, like, for a hub, it's got to be... there's two possibilities. Either it's like I guess spoilers for Naruto, the realm inside of him,
I was thinking that
where
too.
the Fox Boy is, or just the Leaf Village in general.
I mean, like,
Because it's such a big game, so like
you're gonna have like 1,000 levels.
Yeah.
So like,
it's got to
you
be the
need a lot
entire
of
Leaf
doors.
Village. Yeah. Okay. And that I let it bang for your buck. You can be Naruto.
for like, we're talking about a $60 game for like 800 hours of content. So I'm assuming like they're losing so much money on this.
Oh yeah. Money was lost.
Well, maybe there's just a bunch of filler levels,
No, man. They knew they needed to make this game, so they put in their own money. They're only asking for money just so they could recoup some of the loss and not go completely bankrupt.
Yeah, they're only
just so they can put more money into the game.
Yeah, just so they can get some extra money to push into this quality game.
DLC filler.
Yeah, DLC filler.
Well, I had two thoughts. The more normal thought was it'd be funny to see a Zelda game turned into Lego, because Lego games always really simplify story. There's no dialogue, and they really they're a little simple. So the puzzles from Zelda would be funny because they would all become
Lego.
stand on the button basically.
Yeah.
But my other thought was another video game called Metal Wolf Chaos, in which
God damn.
you play as basically the president of the United States, it's very funny, and you're in a mech, and the vice president has turned evil, and he's also in a mech, and you throw giant vehicles around, and I felt that it needed a Lego version because the game would make even less sense without dialogue.
Well, that game, the best part too is his catchphrase is essentially, "'Cause I'm the President of the United States." Whenever he says anything,
we should know. I believe it's made by the people who made Dark Souls, but before they made Dark Souls. So it's a Japanese game, so it's kind of like
weird.
A foreign take on ultra patriotism in the U.S.
We should play that game on stream. That'd be really funny. Anyway, media for me. Oh, this is tough. I gotta think about these more often.
What about Star Wars? You like Star Wars?
Oh,
more Star Wars.
There's not a Lego Star Wars, so it'd be a good idea.
We may or may not have quite literally streamed Lego Star Wars last night.
It's not real, man. Lego Star Wars, not... Okay, so,
What about Lego, Star Wars based on, the books?
Nah, there's already Lego Star Wars. We don't need to give it more Lego games. There's already many. There's, several Lego Star Wars games.
Oh, I just came up with a good one.
Well...
Our current running Dungeons and Dragons campaign is a Lego game. It's got everything. It's got ancient gods being awoken. It's got frog riding.
That's all you need.
Enormous amounts of drugs, but medicinal drugs.
I got it. Tokyo Ghoul.
Tokyo
I think it'd be really funny because it's so violent and so morbid. It'd be really hard to convert everything to Lego. There'd be all these really awkward Lego death. You'd start the game. It's still rated E, right?
Right. But like a ghoul minifig, right? So
yeah.
it's like the where they have the capes where it's it slips onto the head knob. It's like the same thing, but the tail or whatever those things are.
I think they'd all need to be custom. Think of Lego General Grievous. It's not standard. It's all custom.
Okay, every minifig is custom.
So here's how the game starts. So in Tokyo Ghoul, this is spoilers for episode 1.
Well, so where's the hub? Is the hub the
I did not
coffee
think
shop?
Of this.
We gotta go through the hubs for all of them.
Yeah, for Tokyo Ghoul be a coffee shop, because essentially in the anime they just hang out in a coffee shop. But it'd be violent and funny, because they're going to need to find a way to turn it into a rated E game. We'll see how well they do.
And as we all know, violence is hilarious.
But in Metal Wolf Chaos, it would have had to be the White House, but it would just like all the Lego Star Wars games, there'd be a ton of destructibles that blow up into coins or money when you blow them up. So it'd be the famous portrait of Andrew Jackson, but if you shoot it, it blows up into a bunch of blue and gold studs, kind of thing.
You want to see the customized Lego? Because you always customize your Lego characters.
Actually, can we make the American Revolutionary War into a
the
War of Independence?
Yeah, I feel like there is something.
There must be. You get onto the boat and you, instead of knocking all the tea over, you just blow it up and it blows up into a bunch of little studs that you collect.
Oh my god.
The tea in the harbor, the Boston Massacre. It's just a bunch of little Lego people blowing up.
God, okay. Ugh. Yeah, that'd be good. I mean, there's so many games that could become Lego. Like, realistically, they should just turn everything into Lego.
It should all be Lego. Like, we should be Lego.
I really wish I was a Lego character. Do you know how useful that'd be?
Not very.
It'd be so useful. Like, they build so fast. Like, you know, I'm just like, babe, like, everyone's just a civil engineer then. Because, you know, you could just build.
But you'd weigh like 20 pounds.
So?
Let's do it.
Wind's also made out of Legos. It's not gonna do anything. Everything is Legos. Like,
so the wind is Lego. The sky is Lego.
Everything is Lego, right? So essentially, you like have this part where you would get a microscope. Like, you guys remember in science class, it went really small. You saw the atoms, and really big, and you saw the galaxy and the universe.
That famous video of where they zoom in and then they zoom out. And
No.
So, well, there is one like that. It gets up real close and shows you how small atoms are and all the particles, and it gets real big, and it's like, they're similar. Really small and really big are the same, but it's Lego. First you go real big, you get through the Earth, and the Earth's like Minecraft, but made out of Legos, just a cube.
It's actually the shape of a chungus.
Yeah, chungus, which is similar to a Lego block.
A big chungus, specifically.
Well,
The big chungus.
Are you telling me that the big chungus is made up of small chungi?
Yeah, man. But you
It's like,
zoom out
it's like a
further.
hive mind.
Yeah.
There's the Chungus Queen, who sits in the skull cavity.
Man, I wish Chungus Queen was a real life title.
Well, doesn't the Queen of England have that? Like
The Queen of England is the Chungus Queen.
When she visits the Chungai Isles, they say, "All hail Chungai Queen."
Yeah, why is Chungus making such a weird comeback?
I don't
Is it
know.
just us?
I think it's just us.
It's part of our lore. In our very first stream, we talked about it, so we have to please our fans.
Because we all know everyone's here to hear about Chungus. Big Chungus, that is.
Large Chungus.
Large Chungai.
I like taking things that usually have the big modifier. It's like, it's big, whatever, but changing it to large because it just has such a different connotation.
Large house.
Large. Boy.
Eggshell White House. Cream House.
Cream. Gosh.
What are other shades of white? Eggshell House.
Already said that.
I feel we have deviated from the question.
Yeah, we'll move on now. So, okay. Not like a bad superhero, like evil, but like what kind of superhero would you make that is bad? Like just stupid.
I've already got one.
We need a quick backstory.
Favorite.
Superpower, and then their opponent.
His name's Clockman. He can control clocks. Not time, clocks. He has power over clocks. His name's Clockman. He has to, it takes a lot of effort for him to do it, so, when he changes clocks, he starts yelling. It's like, ah! And, he fights against the Prime Meridian. That's
quite the opponent.
Well, wait, what's his origin story, though?
Oh, his origin story? He was a, he was a scientist, and he was working at a nuclear facility, and he thought, it'd be really unfortunate if the countdown sped up, and he discovered that his powers existed by accidentally speeding up the countdown, resulting in many deaths, and he discovered that he could control clocks.
A man who can turn back the clock, but only literally.
He's probably pretty useful when it comes to daylight savings. He just thinks clocks go forward an hour. Then everyone's
but he's got to
"Wow,
scream. It's very tough on him. Another one, I'll throw this out here, that's really good, is a person who can smell colors, but they're colorblind. So, they can smell colors, but they,
But they kind of get it wrong.
Yeah, so it's like, I smell gray, but it's actually green. Here's another one. The Leveler. He can make everything perfectly level.
I don't know, man. That's really useful. That's not dumb.
I'd pay for that power.
Yeah.
Oh, I got one. It's very specific.
Okay.
He can change in fluids. He can change turbulent flow in pipes into laminar flow by reducing the Reynolds number.
Explain what that means.
What does this do?
To use an engineering professor term that is beyond the scope of this podcast, but basically it would mean the math I have to do for my fluids homework would be easier.
Oh, I see. So the point of this is, it's just a guy who gets hired by engineering students to make their homework easier.
Yeah, by changing reality.
So, I like it.
What's his origin story?
His origin story is he was a fluids professor who was tired of having to apply a ridiculous curve. So he went into the wild and lived among the pipes and the turbulent flow, and he became one with the fluid dynamics.
So who's his opponent, though? Who does he have to fight to save the day?
Water towers.
I think one of us thinking about homework right now. So mine, okay, I couldn't really think of a superhero, so I went supervillain, or not so supervillain. He's called the Sock Keeper.
Okay.
He's not just socks, but essentially he's this... Imagine like this 90-year-old man, and he goes around in like these old-timey clothes. But what he does is he breaks into houses, and his power is to basically steal socks and other clothing right before you take it out of the dryer really well. So, he travels, right? And right before you get there, your clothes finish, and he steals one half of your socks. So then you never have a full match.
One half of your socks is, and he steals a sock.
A sock, yeah. So then you never have pairs. He specifically targets socks that you don't have multiples of, so then you could never match them.
Are we sure this is a fake thing? I feel that this could be real. I feel that I've been victim to this.
The Sock Keeper exists. This is he's a cryptid.
Also, is this a supervillain, or is this just a criminal that any of us could potentially become?
You haven't heard... Well, his power is because he steals them really well. I mean, he goes all around the world stealing socks.
Well, is this guy a supervillain, or is he a cryptid? Is he like a strange creature that's beyond time?
Like Santa?
I'll tell you his
Like
origin
Santa.
story. It starts 10,000 years ago at the dawn
Okay,
of
so he
man.
is a cryptid.
I feel like man has existed longer than 10,000 years.
At
But
the dawn. Okay, so this guy is actually Neanderthal.
Okay.
But essentially, he was going around and all these Homo sapiens are like, check out my socks. And he didn't have socks. And this guy's, what the hell, man? And then he goes up to the Homo sapiens and he's like, man, could I have some socks? My mother's feet are really cold. But they say no. And his mom dies from not having socks on her feet. At that moment,
cold feet syndrome.
At that moment, he hucked himself into Mount Sock, a giant volcano that was used to do laundry, to boil water for these Homo sapiens. However, he fell into a pile of washing socks.
Do you think it had a little song when it was done? Like it had normal sized buttons like a modern laundry machine?
They're just rocks with carvings.
Then the volcano would just echo like for miles, da 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 da, whenever your laundry finished. But he hurled himself in, but he fell into the soap water. It was a mixture of like old-fashioned lye, which I don't know how they got it, and like, I don't know, fat from mammoths. However, it fused into him, and he became the Sock Keeper. His greatest enemy is recent. It is the hero.
Tide Pod?
Close. He does use Tide Pod.
Captain Tide Pod.
It's actually Captain Sock Replacer. That's why you find the socks.
Captain Sock Replacer.
That's why you find your socks like 3 weeks later, because they just appear somewhere you didn't do it. Because he battles the Sock Keeper for his socks, then he goes and puts them back.
But he has a huge backlog, so you gotta give him a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, he has to wash them first, because no one's sure what the Sock Keeper does with the socks, but I do not want an unwashed Sock Keeper sock,
Do you think...
Can we destroy the Sock Keeper? Can we vanquish him?
Do you think they have a power-up like Popeye, but they just drink laundry detergent?
Well, that's why they had to make the pods, because it's a lot easier for him to get like the amount he needs. He just takes one out, throws it into the air,
his
then
one-a-day
snacks on it.
laundry man supplement.
Yeah, then he just beats up the Sock Keeper, and the Sock Keeper goes like, "No, my socks! Curse you, Homo sapiens, and your socks!"
The one part about this I find hard to believe is that the Neanderthal had a mother. I am pretty sure they reproduced like bacteria, like asexually, but I might be wrong. I don't know.
Anyway, now we could go on to our good old Ryan's question, one of our viewers who sent us this question, so we're going to be answering it. But we put a bit of a twist on it. He asked Max what his favorite SCP is.
Did he?
Should
He did. So we're all going to share it. Our favorite SCPs.
I'll explain what an SCP is for the viewers who don't know. There's a website. It's sort of like a wiki. If you just look up SCP, you can find it's the SCP Foundation, but it's a sort of community of people who come up with these files of these strange supernatural objects and creatures, and they sort of write detailed reports from the perspective of the organization that's trying to contain them. SCP stands for Secure, Contain, Protect. So they write, these are the containment procedures. They put in test logs and how it was recovered and all that sort of thing. So if we want to share our favorites.
Well, in the honor of the question being directed at Max, I think Max should start.
Okay. I can't think of an exact favorite, but there's a couple that stick out in my mind. First of all, the joke one, I think it's called SCP-J Spook or something like that. Or Spooky. It's just a talking skeleton that can teleport and pulls pranks on people. But, like, the one that jumps to my head when I think SCP is, I can't think of the number, but I think it's called The Flesh That Hates. And it's like a, it's one of the Keter SCPs. Keter being, so there are a couple different, like, levels of SCP in there. It's less related to, like, dangerousness and more related to, like, their ability to understand and contain them. So there's, like, Safe, Euclid, and Keter, which is levels. Like, Euclid, it's like, it's dangerous, but they've got it contained, and Keter's like, it could be a massive issue if it breaches containment. The Flesh It Hates is basically like, if I remember correctly, it's like an infection of scar tissue that will, they're like infected villages in like Russia or something, and if they touch you, they will slowly like turn you into one of the creatures that's part of this thing, and it's like a spreading disease that they have to like fight back with fire and keep in place. With like a massive underground network of shit, and like, at some point there's like, in one of the scouting logs, there's like a giant head with wings or something that like flies out of the ground. It's very strange, very cool SCP, spooky. That one, and then there's the sourdough starter, and that is another one that sticks in my head. Basically, the whole idea with it is like, whoever's using it like saps their emotional state while they're using it, and then whenever the person who eats the bread made with the starter will have their emotional state affected by who made it. And there was like there's like a log or a report on one occurrence where a psychopath had made, like, and it's probably not like medically correct, but a psychopath had made sourdough, and everyone started like freaking out because, their emotional state was affected by the person who made the sourdough bread.
That sounds about right. I think I had to go with a joke one. I'm not a big fan of horror, so I chose SCP-008J, otherwise known as Geolf.
Geolf?
Geolf is your average electrician who has been reported in the scouting logs to just show up like in random secure facilities, like, think the most secure facility, you just see him, and he's like, hey man, I'm here to fix your lights. And they say, how'd you get in here? I just walked in. Then they say, what do you mean? There's 3 security panels. Look man, do you want your lights fixed or not? And there's another one, they just escort him out, but he always finds a way to escape, like they're trying to contain this guy. And one of them, they put him in this room, or try to, like, take him, however the cops somehow come out of nowhere, and like, take the SCP guy and let Geoff go. Then in another one, the SCP scouts, they're just underwater, like deep in this underwater base, miles below the surface. Then they're just walking, and he's like, hey guys, where's the bathroom? And they're like, how'd you get here? He's like, what do you mean? I'm just looking for the bathroom. I made a wrong turn. So then he says, look man, we've seen each other enough. I'll just friend you on Facebook. Like, no, get in that escape pod. We'll lock you in there. However, during the mission, something goes off and the escape pod ejects, and they assume he's dead because he would have had to go through like 12 escaped SCP that like leviathans in the ocean. So they mark him as dead. However, 2 weeks later, the guy gets a friend on Facebook from this guy. He's like, hey man, can we be friends now?
Just an anomalous electrician that no one can contain or kill.
Yeah. So that's why he's my favorite. His class is Euclid. Euclid, whatever it is.
Or Euclid. I think it's Euclid.
That's something.
Okay, I have 3, and they're sort of each different. The first one's a standard SCP. I think it's SCP-914. I think it's called the Clockwork Machine or something like that, but the gist of it is it's this mechanism with millions of gears. It's the size of a room, and there's 2 boxes or chambers, an in and an out, and there's a big dial that has the settings from very rough, normal, fine, very fine, I believe. And so it will take objects that you put into it and either refine them or make them very rough. So you can think if you put in a steel ingot and you put it on rough, you would get iron ore. But I like it because I think what's interesting about a lot of SCPs is they kind of make you think and wonder, and I always wonder sometimes when I look at something, what would happen if I put this handful of screws on the fine setting through this machine, or what would happen if I put, this, and what would come out? And then it kind of makes me think about the sort of fundamental nature of materials and things like that.
That's like part of the really cool thing about SCPs is if you haven't read any of them before, there are chunks that are like redacted or blacked out, and it'll be like, oh yeah, this. It'll like be a list of like explorations of a zone that's an SCP, and it'll tell you 1 and then 2, and then the third one will be redacted, but there'll be references to like the implications of that one.
Like if
it makes you wonder.
Ever seen anything with like CIA documents that are sort of released, but a lot of the stuff is kind of blacked out, that kind of thing.
That's the idea, and it's cool because, and like Benji said, like a lot of them make you think like, what if this, or what if this, or like what did happen,
My second one is a J classified SCP. The J classification, basically there's a subsection on the website for, SCP whatever number -J, J being for joke. One I like about them is it's SCP a bunch of underscores -J, and the report is basically it's something. It kind of makes me feel like procrastinating, so I'll do this later.
I think I've seen it before.
It makes you wonder if someone was lazy or if it really is just an object that makes you like not really care about it.
That's funny.
The final one was actually a very interesting one I found on the website. It was a joke SCP, but it was when I opened it up, it presented me with a couple dozen inputs. It would say noun, and then you had to type in a noun, name of place or something like that. And so I filled it out, and it generated our own SCP for us.
Let's do it.
So I'm gonna read the report, and then the other two here are gonna read the sort of transcript of the 2 scientists working on it. Okay, so classified by order of 05, redacted. Item number SCP-2 to the power of 82,589,933-1J. I'll just call it SCP for the rest of the thing, but it just said odd number, so I put in a large odd number. The object class is Keter, so extremely dangerous. Special containment procedures. SCP-J is to be kept in a onigiri-lined containment chamber located in the Pope's weed locker, where it is to be guarded at all times by no less than 3 ranch hands armed with dollar store products. In the event that the SCP ever begins disestablishmentarianisming its left nipple, Sir William Spoon is to parry SCP-J until it ceases its behavior. In the event of a containment breach, Mobile Task Force Mu-7, aka Pawn Stars, is to be dispatched to SCP-J's last known location. Description: the SCP is an entropic leprechaun. Like most members of its species, it is able to kill game and regularly eats twice its own weight in onigiri each day. The SCP's unusual properties manifest whenever it comes into contact with toilets, which causes it to turn into Zweihander. Whenever this happens, all body pillows within an 8-kilometer radius will begin to ass blast uncontrollably, usually leading to civilian casualties. In addition, many researchers feel it has an uncanny resemblance to Jerry Seinfeld.
Tiny Jerry Seinfeld with a leprechaun hat.
Whether or not this is at all related to the SCP's anomalous properties is unknown at this time. Recovery log. The SCP was first located in Aliopolis, where the Pittsburgh Steelers were using it in order to steal the Dark Soul. Thankfully, Mobile Task Force Mu-7, aka Pawn Stars, was able to recover the object with only 7 billion civilian casualties.
Only.
And now for the transcript.
We had a test log, so Max and I had to recreate it. So here we go. Test log 2. 2 to the 82,589,933 minus 1-1 or 1-1. It's one of the logs.
Hello. Is this thing on? Auch gut. This is Dr. Hitler. And I am about to test...
It asked for a German last name, and that was the first one I came up with, okay?
And I am about to test SCP 2 to the 82,589,933. One's reaction to Chungus. Are you ready to proceed, Dr. Fellowship?
Yes, sir. Ready to begin test.
Excellent. I am now introducing the Chungus to 2 to the 82,589,933. The subject seems to have already figured out the test material.
Making a note. Subject shows high capacity for learning.
Now, the subject is looking right at me. Almost as if it's, mein Gott, mein Chungus, it's got mein Chungus. Oh, the agony.
End log. In light of incident, SCP to the 82,589,933 minus 1-J-1, testing has been suspended indefinitely. 05 redacted.
Well,
Well, there you have it. The ultimate SCP.
Yeah.
well, thank you all for listening. So it's definitely a bit longer than usual, but it's for Chungus, am I right?
Was that our motivation the whole time?
It
Was it for Chungus?
It's always
Is that
for
why
Chungus.
It's always for Chungus.
Anyway, we'll catch you all next week on the podcast.
Check out our YouTube or Twitch channels if you're interested in more content. We have plenty more of us talking. Sometimes we're playing games, or sometimes it's just us in real life doing strange things.
Yeah.
Tune in next week to see
Us drink more green tea, probably.
Oh yeah. 𝓣𝓲𝓶𝓮.